going from a police officer to active addiction to sobriety, the Fentanyl Project for me has been the best gift because it allows me to help people change. It allows me to
Mhm.
give them hope. I know that every person I talk to on the street is not going to seek recovery. They're just not ready. But I'm going to plant some seeds and I'm going to water every time.
Welcome to Flawed for Love of Recovery, where I'm your host, Dominique Zager. Sibling relationships can be so unique, but they can become more complex when there's drug or alcohol use involved. If you find yourself questioning how to help, you're not alone. Every month, we bring together stories that empower you to better navigate your sibling's addiction, offer a sense of connection, and provide fresh perspectives on understanding substance use and how to protect your peace. Join me on this journey in restoring hope and healing. Getting the right help for a drug or alcohol addiction can already feel like an emotional roller coaster. But adding in more trauma, mental illness, homelessness, and a rapidly changing drug supply can make recovery feel impossible. So, in this episode, we're going to dive into some of the emotional, mental, and societal roadblocks that hold some people back from making decisions they know would change their lives. To help us tell that story, we have Bevell, a retired police officer who struggled with his own addictions and is now the founder of the Fentanyl Project, a nonprofit based in Arizona. You might know Brock from social media, where he spotlights the Mesa community and the personal stories that have been devastated by addiction and homelessness. Brock, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This is exciting.
I've been following your work for a while, and you do such a great job of telling really powerful and up close personal stories. And I thought you were one of the best people to help communicate this big question around what exactly holds people back from making some of these life changing decisions. And before we get into what you're doing at the Fentanyl Project, I really want to make sure that our listeners know who you are and what your personal story is. So, if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about your experience as a police officer, how your addiction started, and what your general experiences are.
Yeah, that's a great question. I didn't grow up understanding addiction. I wasn't involved in a home where addiction was prevalent. I didn't live in a community where addiction was prevalent. But the community I grew up in, Scottsdale, Arizona, it wasn't a thing in our community. When I say my community, I'm talking about the network of people that I hung out with. So when I became a cop, my eyes just got blown open.
Mm-hmm.
Just seeing the different personalities and the struggles that people went through,
Right.
seeing that as an officer. I still didn't understand what addiction was. I would correlate it like I did a DUI stop and I arrested the individual and they were drunk and it was a Wednesday at 6 p.m. And it's like, what is going on in your life that you're drinking or using? But I still didn't understand the depths of addiction. I didn't understand addiction until I went through it. I couldn't be empathetic and understanding.
It's like you don't really know what's going on in someone's life when maybe you're making that arrest or you're interacting with them. There's something bigger that's compelling them to do this or behave this way or whatever it might be. So I think it's important to recognize that. One of the things that I wanted to get to as well is how did your addiction start? And like, how did you get to where you are today from that?
Yeah. So let's back up a couple of years. I was on the police department about a year and a half, get into a foot pursuit. And my dumb thought process is, oh, I'm taking this guy down. So we're chasing, I'm running down the street and we come to a side yard. I go 1 foot over. And when I land, 1 foot goes into a hole.
Oh,
I take my step and blow my knee out. And my partner Lance goes to jump on the fence, but the fence falls on me. He falls backwards and breaks it. So I'm on one side of the fence with the blown out knee. He was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this has happened. If they could have filmed this on cops, that would have been like the greatest episode ever. Why I tell you that is I went to the hospital. The doctor prescribed me opiates, and I took the opiates as prescribed and got back to work. My focus was I was so young in my career. The opiates didn't play a major role because my focus and my goal was get back to work as soon as you can. Well, now let's fast forward to the accident that you talk about. We're doing some surveillance. We had confidential informants that were prostitutes. Well, this prostitute knew that there was going to be a drug deal, and the surrounding was mom was driving the truck, 12-year-old daughter was a passenger. She was going to traffic the daughter in exchange for
Mm.
the hookup. And so the informant says, "Hey, I don't want this girl turning into what I am. Can you please intervene?" And I thought that was really cool. That was there's some depth to that. So speeding up to moments, the truck shows up, driven by the mom, the daughter passenger. We see the drug dealer goes to the passenger side, has a conversation. We stop the scene, arrest the drug dealer. We put him on the curb. But I did look down on the floorboard and there was a bag of dope. So this is her vehicle facing you. And now I'm in the back right passenger side back tire. She gets upset, throws her truck into reverse, speeding up, and my right foot gets caught under the back tire. My foot breaks, my ankle breaks. I'm like, oh. And then when I went to brace myself with my left foot, she hits me on the inside of the leg. And it was like that Stretch Armstrong toy, like, yeah, that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
So my leg just blew out. Another one where I wish they would have recorded it. I go to the hospital, they bandage you up, and they're like, "Okay, you're okay tonight. You got to go to your primary care tomorrow." So I walked back to the same primary care that gave me the opiates the first time, that did the surgery the first time. The doc was such a cool guy, but I think he was misinformed a little bit because she's like, "Hey, Brock, we're gonna have to do a bunch of surgeries, but I'm gonna give you these opiates because you're a cop and you won't get addicted to them." And when he said that to me, I was like, "Really? Is that how it goes? Because I'm a cop, I'm immune to it? Is it the uniform? Is it the badge? What is
Like
it?"
you could willpower it.
Yeah. And it was weird and it rung weird in my head. I'm like, okay, then that means I can take as many of these as I want because I'm not gonna get addicted. Because the first time I'm playing back to the first time too, I was like, I didn't get addicted then. So here we go. And what was the difference between this time is the first time I was ready to get back to work. I was excited to get back to work. My goal was that. But the first meeting as well, he's like, "Brock, you're jacked up. I don't think I can get you back to work. We're going to try, but I don't think I can." And so that was in the back of my mind. Crazy enough, the day I get back, I'm working a concert. We're walking out a lot, and this car comes flying by us.
Oof.
And I'm like, PTSD and like
Yeah.
whatever. I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, they're driving reckless. They drive around to the fountain. The driver and passenger jump out. The passenger jumps in the fountain, starts taking her clothes off. The driver is taking his clothes off. And so we just walked up. I'm like, "Hey, Mesa police." So the guy comes and swings, and we're fighting. We're literally fighting. And all I can think about is, I came up here with my partner, Tony. Where is Tony at? And Tony screams knife. The guy goes down to his pant leg and pulls out one of those big Rambo knives. I was able to turn and I struck the guy and I hit him on the side of the face on that bone and I blew my hands. So I went from having surgery on my knee to blowing my hand out, and the department's like, "Okay, dude, listen, you're not fit for duty. We can't get you back. You have a blown out knee, you have a hand." And to be honest with you, that was a
Yeah.
blow. That mentally was the hardest thing because now, and I was like, "What? There's so many guys out here. Put me on a track. I can outlift anybody. I can outrun these guys. You can't say I'm not fit for duty." But then the guy's like, "Hey, if you're in a fight for your life and your partner's there and you get pushed down the stairs and kind of step wrong and your knee blows out again, are you able to defend him? Are you able to fight for him?" And I'm like, "No, I don't know. I don't think so. I'm not that confident in my knee." So they medically retired me. That was the caveat. I told you the first time I took the drugs, I didn't care for them. The second time, they became my best friend because I lost my identity. I lost who I was. And I think a lot of people, to go back to your question, I think a lot of people lose their way, whether it's their identity, it's their relationships, it's their faith, whatever it is. For me, it was who I was. I went from
Mm.
feeling like I was living a life of Nitro Circus, like just every night something different, getting called out, just the adrenaline killer rush, right? To living in my home with my kids and I'm changing baby diapers because I can't
Yeah.
go to work. And that's not offensive to any wives out there because that's an important job. But from where I was to doing that overnight was a blow.
It's a culture shock, really,
Oh,
right? Like you said, I think the important part is you've lost a sense of your identity. I think that happens to a lot of people who become very wrapped up with their work, where they work long hours. It's like that becomes part of who you are. And so having that stripped away, it's not like it was a gradual transition. Having that stripped away can definitely take a toll on anyone, especially your mental health. Like you can also like very much like the passion that comes through and like how you talk about the work and the cases that you've dealt with and the situations you've been in. And you know, it's like you're transporting us like right back to those moments because they're so vivid. They were such a huge part of your life, and you can definitely see that.
yeah, and I think that's an important element is we do get wrapped up in
Mhm.
whatever we're doing, right? And I was wrapped up. Everything and who I was wrapped up under that badge. And once that badge was taken away and that cool point, like I was the light of the party. I was working undercover. I had long hair and earrings and goatees, and everybody was like, dude, what do you do? Oh, we want to hear your story. So I was like really cool. Like that's what I felt. And when that was stripped, I'm like, dude, I'm nobody. I don't even know who I am. And I just went through this depression. It was that mental health is such a big thing. Who you feel like you are, how you self talk is such important. And at that time, the more opiates I took, the better I self talked.
The self-medication, right?
Yeah.
You were living through this assumption that your doctor had told you like you'll be fine, right? Like Brock, you can handle it. You're a cop. When did you start realizing that okay, maybe I can't handle it as well as I thought or as well as my doctor thought
Mm,
I did? What were those initial signs when you started realizing this is starting to get a little out of control?
I didn't ever come to that realization because I was self medicating. I was lying to myself. And so, and if anybody said, hey, dude, why are you taking those pills? I had scars, I had wounds, I had a limp. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I could say I was a cop and I got run over. So I articulate and justify why. Like you never got run over. What are you talking about? That's psychological warfare that you do with people. We're sick as our secrets. It wasn't until year 10, really. I thought I was managing. I had a job. I was still seeing my kids. I had a relationship. But what I was actually doing was I was alienating everybody around me. When people say, hey, nobody was coming to save me, nobody was
Yeah.
coming to save me because nobody knew. I had alienated everybody so you couldn't see my demise. And so I just pushed
Mhm.
you off as far as I possibly could so you didn't see my struggle. And so year 10, I had a system. I woke up, my pills were right there, my water was right there. I take it. And then I go to the bathroom and do my thing and then I get my day going. On this one occasion, I go there, I don't know if I knocked my pills off or what happened, but they were gone. And so I'm like, crap, I gotta go to the bathroom. They're in the bathroom cabinet. And so when I opened the cabinet up, there was this realization that there's all my pills. And I'm looking at them like, I had a Sharpie in there. So if I took a pill off, I'd like mark down how many I had. If I had taken
Mhm.
8 during the day, I took, and they were perfectly placed. And so I took a pill, shut the cabinet. And when I shut the cabinet, that was the first time in 10 years that I realized that I was an addict because
Wow.
that glimpse of the mirror, first of all, looked at me and I hated what I saw. I hated where I had gone.
Mhm.
And it gave me a glimpse into my bedroom. And I'm like looking in my bedroom. I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, you're
It
a
gave you a glimpse of
crackhead.
the reality, right, of
It
the
was
situation
it
you were
was a
in.
disaster. And I'm like, I have done search warrants on these homes. You're a crackhead, dude. That's what I called myself.
Yeah.
I was so pissed that I opened that cabinet back up and I grabbed my pill bottles, every one of them, and I dumped them and flushed the toilet. And then I panicked. I realized
The
that
"oh shit"
was
moment.
the dumbest
What did I
thing.
just do? Yeah, you
And
get, like, that brief moment of confidence, and
yeah,
then
dude, I went from being super cool to like, I just panicked.
yeah.
And I panicked because here's what's interesting with an opioid addiction, there is a pain, mental, physical, spiritual component to it. And I realized in that moment, because I hadn't come off the pills in 10 years. 10 years, imagine that. Never was sober off them. So in that reality, I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm like, okay, here
Yeah.
we go. I don't have any more pills. I can't go and get me from the doctor because I just filled up the pills. And I remember the detox was the worst thing I've ever gone through. I'm 15 years sober. Okay. 15 years.
Yeah.
And I am deathly afraid of using ever again because I fear the detox. Excuse me. I had neck surgery. I had shoulder surgery and a hand surgery. Zero pills, zero pain pills. Why? Not because I'm a hero and superhero and I'm tough. I'm so scared of going back and using
Yeah.
because of the detox. That's how scared
Yeah.
I am.
So I have a question for you about that moment after you tossed out the pills and you were like, I'm going to do this detox on my own. You said you were done. What occurred for you, like mentally or emotionally in that moment where you could have gone to the street? I'm sure you could have found somebody where you could have sourced those drugs in a different place or in a different form. What was it in that moment where you were like, I'm really done? Like, I don't even want to try going through these loopholes anymore. Like, I am just really done.
I love it. Love it. I never had to go to the streets because I had a drug dealer as my doctor. So I never ever had to go to the streets because I could walk in there and look, put my chart up. Have been run over. I've had surgery after surgery after surgery. So I'm in pain. And dude, listen, as an undercover cop, you learn some very good skills on how to lie
Mhm.
and manipulate and fake. And so I could talk to any doctor about anything, and they would give me pills. My drug dealer was my doctor, so I didn't have to go out and do that. But I stayed in the bathroom for 7 days, and people don't understand what detox from opiates is like. And it's like having the flu times a million. I defecated on myself over and over because I couldn't stand up. I urinated on myself. I was throwing up so bad that at one point I was on all fours in the bathtub, water pouring on top of me. And I'm like, Bev, if you throw up one more time, literally, you're going to blow out your backbone. I was dry heaving so bad. And it was, I don't know if you've ever dry heaved, but it's like the worst. Like nothing's coming out and you feel like it's just horrible. And then I had this restless leg where it was burning and then my eyeball was like really weird shit. It was the weirdest, most terrible. In day 3, as I'm laying in the bathroom, I'm starting to have a conversation with God. I'm like, okay, God, really, if you're up there, if you're my guy who we say we are, and would you please pull me out of this? Like, I'm ready. I can't go through this anymore. It was like that's confessional.
God is probably like, I've seen this all the time when everyone's on their hands and knees, right?
Yes. And what was funny was that was the humorous part is I
Yeah.
heard him laugh. When I tell the story, they're like, "No, you were struggling, you were hearing things." I'm like, "No, it was God." And he laughed at me and said, "Son, if I let you up out of this and I let you get out, I know what you're gonna do. You just want that moment to get out of pain. You're going to go find a pill. You're going to find one that you've dropped in your home. You're going to go search on the streets, like you said. You're going to
Yeah.
find it because you need to be out of pain. So I'm not going to help you. You're in it." And I'm like, oh my gosh, this dude knows me. Because in the
Yeah.
back of my head, all I'm thinking, if I could just get a pill, if I could just get out of this pain, just take it away, man. And he didn't. So, but now at day 3, I was so weak. I was so tired. I was so depleted. I was mentally
Mm.
beat. People talk about a rock bottom. This wasn't even my rock bottom. That's what I want people to understand. This was not it. In recovery, I don't believe there's a such thing as a rock bottom. You may pinpoint that for you as a rock bottom, but give me a shovel, I'll keep digging. Give me
Yeah.
a reason, I'll keep digging. But luckily, in this moment, I didn't keep digging. I was laying in there in day 7. I'm literally broke. I have nothing, literally nothing physically, mentally, or spiritually that I could have given at this point. And I uttered, and this was the second time I literally uttered a prayer and said, okay, God, I know I'm not in control, but I'm going to offer you something up. Like, I need help, right?
Yeah.
And that, again, that deathbed confession, I'm like, listen, if you let me walk out here, I'll never use again. Like, I'm telling you, I'll never relapse. But if you can't do that for me, will you take my life? Because I physically can't do this any longer. I don't have anything else to give. I don't know how old you are. I'm an older guy. I was a huge WWF fan with Hulk Hogan. And when Hulk Hogan was getting beat, the referee would like grab his arm and he'd raise his arm and they would drop. And then he would grab it again and it would drop. And the third time he'd reach up and circle and then he'd go like this. And then you're the crowd get going, you know, it's like his return. And it literally felt like that. I had this
Wow.
rush of energy, this rush of power that came into my body. I'm like, I'm literally having this like out of body experience saying, what is going on right now? And I was able to stand up and I was able to walk out of that bathroom. And I can tell you, I get emotional because this is really hard. In 15 years, I've never relapsed. And again, it's not because of my power.
It's
Oof.
the will. It's the
It,
will that you had.
yeah, it's just I made a commitment. I made a decision in that moment not to do it. And it was that powerful, like that agreement. The mental part of addiction is harder than the physical part. And I believe a lot of people feel like it's the chemical hook
Mhm.
to the drug. It's not, it's the chemical hook to feeling better and feeling whole and feeling like I'm not a piece of crap.
Like you said, I think that was something that's super important is it's a painkiller, not just physically, but it's emotionally numbing. And my brother actually said to me a couple days ago, we were having a conversation and I asked him, I said, and for those who don't know, he's 20 years old and he's been using fentanyl for a couple years now. And one of the things I asked him is like, what about it is so hard for you to stop or even to want to begin to make a change? And he said, right now, it's the only thing that makes me feel better about myself and makes me feel good. It just stops all the pain that I have. He said that in his own words. And I thought that made me feel more compassionate and more empathetic when you understand it's not that somebody's doing it maliciously or because they have some kind of ulterior motive. It's because they're coping in that moment the best way that they know how to deal with whatever emotional pain, trauma that they might have been experiencing.
Yeah, I'm glad you made that correlation because I contact, I don't know, hundreds of
Yeah.
people struggling in addiction a week.
Yeah.
And it's always the same thing. It's like, I don't want to be addicted. I didn't choose to wake up this morning addicted. I'm just addicted to it.
I always say like the first time that someone picks up, it is a choice. And then after that, that choice is kind of robbed from you because now
Mm.
you're like handcuffed to whether it's drugs or alcohol. And I want to use that as an opportunity to talk about the work you guys are doing at the Fentanyl Project, talking about what you guys are doing with the Mesa community. How did you get started with the project? And what was the overall like mission behind it?
So my passion, the Fentanyl Project, dropped in my lap. Like I was working for a playground company and I had a chance to go to a lot of parks and talk to a lot of homeless people. I like talking to people. I want to know your story. Tell me your story.
Yeah.
Like, why are you here? My story is different than your brother's story, right? Doesn't mean my story is better or different than him. But I'm driving down the street and there's this kid sitting in a church lot and he's sitting on the corner. He's got his bags. I'm like, oh, I know what this is. He's homeless. God's like, hey, go talk to him. I'm like, I'm busy. I'm working. I can't. So second time, hey, turn around and go talk to him. I'm like, no, I'm busy. I got other things to do. And the third time is like, hey, go talk to him. You have a message for him. I'm like, oh, God, what message do I have to give this kid, right? So I'm like, okay. Begrudgingly, I turned around and I pulled into this parking lot and got out. And that's always an awkward. People are always like, well, how hard is it to approach people? It's sometimes it can be awkward, right? But I walked up, I sat next to him on the curb and was like, hey, man, what's going on? Introduced myself. He's like, yeah, my name's Derek. I was like, what are you struggling with, man? He's like, oh, I'm homeless. I'm 18 years old. I'm struggling with heroin. And my parents kicked me out. They didn't approve it. I'm like, wow, man. So I took 10 minutes of my day
Hmm.
to talk to this kid and have a conversation and give him hope and say, dude, you're not the only guy out here fighting this battle. You can do it, make right, go home, talk to parents, whatever. And I went home and I was touched by this conversation. I sat with my wife and I'm like, hey, this is what happened. She's like,
Mhm.
it's a cool story. Why don't you post on Facebook about it? I'm like, what? No, that's like, it was kind of personal, I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't want to out anybody about addiction. So I'm like, yeah. She's like, no, post it. What if his parents and family are looking for him? Just tell the story. I'm like, okay. I posted it. A few hours later, my wife gets hooked up with his family. And next thing you know, we're telling the dad where to find the kid.
Oh, I'm gonna
Okay.
cry.
Yeah. So it was just, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And when I started thinking, I was like, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that have family members that are missing. And so I kept doing that. So I started throwing water and cookies and stuff in my truck. So when I drive around, I talk and I started recording their conversations and posting them with no goal of anything ever happening. I'm in my pickup
Right.
truck. It's my own time. I'm posting this. And if you watch the earlier videos, you can see my pickup truck and not the van. Like it was grassroots, right? Yeah, I started doing this, and the guy reaches out to me and says, "Hey, can I buy you a van? You need to be able to put some stuff in there." I'm like, "Sure." So he donated me a big old van. And the guy's like, hey, can you design a wrap? I want to wrap it for you. I'm like, all of a sudden, all these people want to reach out. And then companies start calling me and saying, hey, can we send you 5,000 socks? Or can we get you bicycles? Can we get you some hand warmers? And I'm like, what the? People are cool out there. And so that's kind of how the project started. And now, of course, it's still grassroots, right? But now the messaging is changing a little bit. It's
Mhm.
becoming a lot of education of what's happening in our communities, the fentanyl project, I mean, the fentanyl issues in the community, how we can help, how do you talk to your kids about addiction? And so something that started out as God told me to talk to this young man has now traveled. I mean, I think my wife told me it was July of 2021 when we started. That was the day we talked to him. So really, it was a grass. I think we all need some type of purpose in our recovery. And my purpose became the fentanyl project. My purpose, it burns when I'm not out there, like helping people. I'm like, I gotta get out there. I haven't been out
Yeah.
there in a day. So what I've done is I've donated 2 hours of my day and I go out and I targeted Mesa, which is my community. I was born in Mesa. My addiction started in Mesa. I was a cop in Mesa. I got married in Mesa. I got divorced in Mesa. Like Mesa's my community. And so like that's why people are like, well, why don't you go to Phoenix? And I do sometimes. I tell their stories over there too, but I don't have to leave 5 minutes from my house and I'm getting these stories.
Yeah, it's true. Like, I think where the passion is, where the community is, I think it's important to start with that connection is too.
Yeah.
I wanna go back to actually something that you said a couple minutes ago. It choked me up when you were talking to that 18-year-old kid and, your wife had encouraged you to post about it on social and you were kinda hesitant about it. I think there's so much power in having these conversations and talking about them
Mm.
because I think there's so much stigma, especially with families. Maybe this kid, his parents had kicked him out and he does no one to talk to about it. But I think having these conversations, it shows you that this is a disease that's affecting people beyond just them individually. These are people who are struggling with lack of connection and compassion. And there's so much stigma around it that the more we can have these conversations, I think we can start to break down that taboo behind addiction and homelessness.
Yeah, we actually started a movement called the Take 10 movement. And basically what it is take 10 minutes of your day and go out and
Mhm.
make a meaningful conversation. Do it face to face. Leave them with hope. If there was one bit of advice I could give, it'd be like, have the conversation. Stop being fearful, connect. If you saw my DM, they're all asking the same questions. How can I help my son? How do I help my daughter? I'm in recovery. I just got a couple this morning. I was like, hey, dude, I just hit my 5 year mark. People want endorsement. Like, congratulations. I love what you're doing. Now keep doing it. And how do we open these conversations up? Because they're awkward and they're hard. How do I talk to my brother about the effects he's having on me and my family? And just talk to him. I can't tell you how much avoidance we have. Like, I don't want to stir the pot. I don't
Yeah.
want to talk to him. Listen, it's the elephant in the room. Talk to him. Have the conversation. Let them know you love them and support them. You don't have to co-sign their behavior.
Mhm.
You don't have to allow them to commit crimes and use stuff in your home. You can put up those boundaries, but you can also love that person to death.
Yeah, I think that's beautifully said. And I think that's super important. You're doing these outreach conversations and you're meeting with the community. What has that done for you personally? Like you're getting up close and personal with folks every single day and your team is. What has that experience been like?
Oh, man, it's beautiful. It really is. I mean, it's hard. Don't get me wrong. There are moments I'm never scared. Like that's one of
Mhm.
the big questions people ask. Are you ever scared? Oh, they're addicts, right? They're bad people. I'm like, come on, man. Like literally, I've made thousands of contacts, and only one time did I get nervous. Going from a police officer to active addiction to sobriety, the Fentanyl Project for me has been the best gift because it allows me to help people change. It allows me to
Mhm.
give them hope. I know that every person I talk to on the street is not going to seek recovery. They're just not ready. But I'm going to plant some seeds and I'm going to water every time. I'm going to keep going there and tell them, hey, what can I get you today? I know the goal is to get you tomorrow to get sober.
It's getting you one step closer to
Yeah.
making that change, right? It's not about
One
going
step.
from 0 to 100, but you can get that person from 0 to 10 to 50. And during that outreach, like what kind of resources and support have you seen to be the most helpful?
So Arizona struggles. It really does. We're on the border. So the amount of fentanyl, the amount of chaos, the amount of addiction, the amount of need is probably more than a lot of the communities out there. And I'm not comparing like, hey, we're so different, but we're being inundated. I think we're the first line of defense that sees the change in the supplies. So really, we're understaffed in every single area out here. We don't have enough detox centers. Our beds are almost always full. And then after the detox, they need recovery, maybe it's the sober living, whatever it is. But most times those are pretty full. When we can get them in, they do a great job, but it's really hard getting people into facilities.
Wow. It's like the lack of infrastructure. It's not just the physical resources and the handouts during outreach. It's about the societal picture, like just getting the community involved at a larger scale.
Yeah, I believe it's the hardest topic to discuss. If we were talking about a Down syndrome organization, you can get behind that because you know those children, they're beautiful, they're loving, right? It's I'll give money to that because I'll support that cause. But once we start getting into addiction, it becomes sticky. It's not a sexy topic. The reason you donate or the reason you put your time and effort into it is because you've been affected by it. If you haven't been affected by it, you don't have the comprehension and the understanding to articulate your thoughts.
And you think that again, like you said earlier, that these are just a bunch of people who are bad or people who are criminals or people who are choosing this lifestyle. Most folks don't have the full context behind it.
And that right there is why I do the Fentanyl Project and why I post the videos. Because if you watch the videos, I'm not just trying to embarrass these people because I have like 36,000 hours on my phone of different things. That's a lot of video. We see some crazy stuff that we don't post. I don't want to embarrass that person. But I do post information. I'm sure if you've seen it, I try to be educational. I try to explain what's happening to the body, what's happening to the mind, what happens to the family. I'm trying to really in depth talk to them about their addiction because it gives them the opportunity, probably the first opportunity in however long, to really think about where they're at.
You said to share their story with somebody else who's not someone who they might just be around all day.
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things you kind of started to get into it is how the drug supply has started to change.
Oof.
Mesa being like that first line, seeing the immediate effects of the changing supply. When fentanyl was introduced, that took most communities by the throat.
Mm.
And now with xylazine being introduced into most supplies, what are some of the changes that you're seeing at a community level and the types of support that people need?
Absolute destruction. This stuff has taken 100 some thousand lives last year. 5 Arizonans are dying a day. So if you
Wow.
start thinking about that's a lot of numbers, man. And so what I'm seeing, the drug supply, when fentanyl hit, it came in pills. It came in 30 pills, right? and they're 100 times more potent than heroin. Nobody can tell you how potent it is because it's ridiculous. So the pills got pushed into the streets. People started getting addicted to them, started to use them. They got down to 25 cents a pill.
That's crazy.
That's the insanity of it. Because if you think about it, like when I was using, if I was going to sell my pills, I had M30. I could have sold them for $1 a milligram, so $30 or $80, right? So they're expensive. Today, I can stay high for $5. We started seeing people using 100 pills a day.
And it's also showing you like how short like the lifespan of the drugs are too.
Short, yes, and how much we want to escape. So the pills came in, the pills blew up, and then they started getting what they call bunk. They started putting less fentanyl, less fentanyl, less fentanyl. So it started making them go through withdrawals. At the same time, introduced the Fetty powder. The Fetty powder is just skyrocketing in potency. And so now you go from the pills, which were potent, to the powder, which is an exceptional potency, that are killing people left and right because they don't know how much. How do you gauge how much powder to use? That's why we're seeing a lot of more of the overdose because the powder is so freaking potent. And then they started adding xylazine into it, nitazine in it. And it's like, dude, how do we keep up on it? How do we make rules and regulations to regulate this stuff when it's a synthetic drug?
And how are you treating it on the street?
So the
Mhm.
xylazine are causing these major wounds. People
Yeah.
have gaping wounds where you can see muscle. Okay. Well, here's the deal. What's a painkiller?
Yeah.
So they use fentanyl to mask the pain. Because if I go to the hospital and try to get treated, they're not even going to touch my level of addiction. They can't give me enough methadone, so I can stay on the streets and medicate myself and get out of pain quicker than I can at the hospital. So then I'd stay out here, and then I let it go septic, and then finally I start feeling like I'm gonna die, I go to the hospital, and they get my leg cut off. So
Yeah,
that's really what
absolutely.
we're seeing.
Yeah, I think that's a totally separate issue too that I hear a lot is how people are going to either treatment facilities, hospitals, detox centers, et cetera, and they're being under medicated. And that is
Mm,
also so devastating because you're going through this detox and you have very little support to actually get you through it. I'm not a doctor, but that Suboxone is being prescribed and they're just not prescribing enough. Or methadone, they're starting folks off real low and it's not even coming close to what they're using with fentanyl or now with xylazine. So I think that's a whole other conversation, but I think it's important to note that I think there's a misconception that people who go into these facilities want to just use more drugs and they're just asking for more and asking. Yeah, they're asking for more, but I think it's because what they're being prescribed is not actually matching the dose that they're getting on the street, not even coming close to it. So I think it's less about I don't want to do this. It's about I need some more medication to actually help me to help stabilize
mm,
me.
like that. Yeah, so it's potent, and here's the issue: Narcan does not work on xylazine because it's not an opiate derivative. You're getting powder with xylazine and Fetty, and you're overdosing. How do you save them? Because it's not an opiate. So are they overdosing because of fentanyl? Are they overdosing because of xylazine? And we're seeing people using 12 canisters and coming back. 12 canisters of Narcan, having to use more and more canisters to save people because they're trying to just get them to overcome that xylazine. Yeah.
What have you seen to be like the most urgent need on the street? And a lot of the people that are going to be listening are families
Yeah.
too, and they might have loved ones who are on the street. What are some things that they can do in terms of like outreach support to help get them some resources? It really is. It's mental health resources. Is it food? Is it connection?
Yeah, such a great question. I love that. The problem is, do you remember when you were in school and you read a book and it was like those mystery manual books? If you want to go climb to the top of the mountain to find the crown, you go to page 15. That's what it feels like getting help. It's a hunt, man. Like, because here's the deal. If they take my insurance only for 5 days, but they'll take me in detox, but they won't take me to recovery. So then what? Right? It's just like trying to fill the puzzle on your own recovery. So you do have to have a family member that is willing to put in the time to find you the detox center, to find you an aftercare program. So I think what we're seeing is there's a huge need for aftercare in Arizona. So we're kicking ass. We're getting you into the detox. You're going through your 4, 5, 7 days. You're feeling better. And then what happens if we can't find you a
Yeah.
rehab? So we can get you in a rehab maybe for 15 days because that's all your insurance is going to pay. But here's where the breakdown is. Where do we put you? You came in homeless. So you weren't living with family. You didn't have an apartment. You didn't have a supportive wife, family member, whatever. So
Right.
now what we got to do, man, your insurance is paid up. We got to let you go. So we go and we drop you right back on the street.
And where do you go?
You
Yep.
go right back to
Same
your
place, you know.
connections, your people, places, and things that are comfortable. So we go right back into using. And you may, I mean, I've seen guys been out on they're cold, they're just cold turkey and they're doing the best they can, right, for 2 or 3 days, and they're like, dude, what the heck? Why am I doing this? This is stupid.
I love that you talked about the aftercare. That's something that, like with me and my brother's experience, is like that's been one of the most challenging things for him. Is like it's not just getting him into a program, it's how he's being set up afterwards. Like there was this one experience, I think it was some point last year. He did a couple weeks at a program. They had him set up on methadone, went set up at an outpatient methadone clinic. He's waiting their hours, right? Like now you haven't gotten dosed. It's been how many hours are you waiting? You got to do your intake. You got to wait for the doctor. And someone who's fresh out of rehab, it's like, I don't have time for this. Like, I'm getting sick just waiting for this. So, what are you going to do? You're going to go right back to the street, right? And get your dose somewhere else, wherever you know how. And it's like becomes like this vicious cycle. And it's like a scary place to be because there's no like right or wrong way to do this anymore. It's just like you don't know what's going to work for yourself or for your loved one anymore. There's no secret formula for
Dude,
it.
I think it's surgical. I think that it is failure ready. I mean, I can sit outside of a methadone clinic and I can record for hours because that's true. They get to a methadone. First of all, they got to find a ride, and the insurance pays for their ride. So they get them there, they get them in line, and then you put your number in, and then you get called. So you go outside and you wait
Yep.
in a just a shady
Yep.
area, right? Most of the time,
Yep.
and then who shows up?
Yep. You
Your
got drug
dudes. Your
dealers outside.
yes, and they're right out there, and you're like, dude, hey, just if you just take a hit of
Yeah.
this, it'll get you through the line.
It's the
I get it.
vulnerability of it. Yeah.
Yes, yes, man. It's
Yeah.
like putting a chocolate cake in front of a kid right here. I'm that guy. You put it in front of me, I'm gonna eat it.
Yeah.
Even though I tell myself over and over, I'm not gonna do it. I want to be out of
Absolutely.
pain.
Especially with like an unregulated supply and that it keeps changing. It's
Yeah.
like you don't really know how much you can handle, right? You might think, "Oh, I could take one more pill or I could have one more
Yeah.
line or whatever it is." And that could be it. You're pushing the envelope because you want to keep numbing yourself.
It's
Yeah.
nature, right? Each one of us in addiction, if you put us all in a line, we share one characteristic: the inability to self regulate. I can't self regulate.
Mhm.
Like, I go to the gym, I go too much.
Yeah.
I exercise too much. I eat too much.
Yeah.
Like, it's always to excess, but that's a trait that most of us in addiction have.
It's the feel good, right?
Oh,
When
man.
I want to get to one more important angle that
Let's
we
go.
haven't gotten to yet. You've encountered people from all walks of life across Mesa, Arizona. And it's not always black and white. You have different stories. You have older people, you have younger people, people who might be homeless, maybe not addicted. What do you think is one of the most important or most powerful stories that you've come across during your outreach that's really resonated with you? Is there something that you
Mm.
feel might be helpful for families to hear who are wrestling with that idea of what can I do to support my loved one or why can't they just get help? Are there any stories that have really stood out to you over the last couple of years?
I think I have too many, but one really hits me today because she just hit 1 year today. Summer, if you're listening, I'm so proud of her. I had first met Summer about 2 miles from my house. She was sitting outside on the curb. She had a pill bottle in her hand. Her dad was the mediator. He kind of taught her how to use. So this lady has children, daughters. She was married. And when I found her, she, of course, is going through it. And her story was just resonated with me. It's beautiful. She was so kind, but she wasn't ready to get sober. A few months later, I see her again. I do another video with her. I talk to her, tell her I love her. I was like, hey, I'm not going away. I'm still right here. If you
Mhm.
need help, here's my phone number. The next time I see her, she's really bad, really bad. Not doing it. I could tell she was sick. She was with stolen property. Like, come on, Summer, you're better than this, and you're beautiful, and I love you, and I'm here for you. I'm in Costa Rica, and I get a phone call from her. She's like, Brock, it's the summer. I'm ready to go to rehab. I'm like, Summer, I'm in freaking Costa Rica, but stay sober because I'm gonna be home in a couple of days, and I'll meet up with you. She's like, yeah,
Mhm.
okay, deal. A couple of days later, she calls me. She goes, Brock, I'm still sober. I need help. I need to get into rehab. So we talk, great video, great conversation, like just such a good person, man. And then she gets into rehab. She calls me up a couple of days later and says, hey, Brock, I need a bike. So I go down up and I put it out there online and I have two ladies send me some money. And I'm like, we're going to get this girl a bike. Right. I put the story out there. And that's what I love about social media is people love people and they love helping. And so, and I don't ask for a ton, but like it was I need to get this girl a bike. Here's her story. So I had, I don't know how much money, 500, I think. My wife and I go to Walmart, crappy bikes. We go all over the place, just but Target crappy bikes. We're like, maybe I get this girl a bike because she's really trying to do it, right? And so I went to the specialized place here in East Mesa and I walk in, I'm like, hey guys, here's my story. I got this young lady. She's struggling with addiction. She's sober a couple of months. She's trying to get back and forth from work. She's in a sober living. She's doing it. I just need some freaking help. And the owner of the specialized company from Colorado is standing in the building. Like, what
Oh,
are the
wow.
chances of that, right? Because if you're not an owner, you can't make that decision. He walks
Right.
up, he goes, hey, let me look at my computer. I think I got something for you. He pulls off $1,000 specialized. Ooh, I get emotional because it gives us this specialized for $500. Then we were able to take the
Amazing.
bike to her business where she was working at. We take it in there and get her. And she's just like, it's just beautiful. And we're able to give her, donate her this bike, from the community, all the community reaching out and doing good things. Went out with me yesterday on the Fentanyl Project, and she hits 1 year today. And it's like, dude, that's what I told her. I was like, Summer, I knew you were going to do it the whole time. And in her video, I talked about rock bottom. She says, yeah, I hit rock bottom a year ago. I knew I was going to do this, but I wasn't ready. It's so like, if there's a word I could share to parents is there is going to be a moment. Don't miss it. Don't get so wrapped up into my son or my daughter is just a piece of shit. They keep lying to me. Listen, they're in active addiction. Okay. They're in the middle of it. And we don't make good decisions. The only thing we care about at that point in time is the drug. But once we get sober, the only thing we care about is you. And so that's what I wish people can understand about addiction. You can watch them recover.
And you can be supportive along that
Yeah.
way. I think that's beautifully said. I'm getting emotional and it makes me
Yeah.
wanna,
Oh,
like, call up my mom and my brother and, like,
yeah.
give them some positive hope. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Let me end with this. In recovery in life, there's four areas that have to be corrected for us to live in a sober environment. So the four areas are home, health, community, purpose. If you look at a healthy person, let's take you, I'm assuming you're healthy, right? Your home life is stable. Your home life is a
Mhm.
place of peace and rest. Most of us in active addiction do not have that home life that is peace, that is calm. Most of us struggle with mental health. What came first, the chicken or the egg, right? What came first, addiction or mental health? We don't know. Spiritual. What are you connected to? What's getting you up in the morning? It can be God, it can be the ocean, it can be whatever you want it to be. But that's step one, right? I need help. And then the physical. When's the last time they went to the doctor? When's the last time they went to the gym? Next one, your community. Who are you hanging out with? Most
Mhm.
addicts hang around with addicts. You are who you hang out with. Their purpose is get dope, get dope, get dope. You, as a parent, as a loved one, as a guardian, as whatever, therapist, those areas have to be regulated before someone's going to be really successful. And I'm not saying go out and buy them an apartment. I'm not saying that. I'm just
Yeah.
saying when you look at us, we all struggle with those four areas. So how are we going to buoy them up and help them through it?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
there you
Yeah.
go.
I think that's super important. I think it actually does a great job of actually laying out like the spectrum. First, you got to like stabilize this person. Let's get them like feeling okay. Let's get them in a good place. And then they can work on all these other areas. And I think that's important for families to remember. I think a lot of the times we expect our loved ones who are in active addiction to be able to stop hanging out with this person or show up to family functions and do A, B, and C. And it's like you're asking a lot of this person to be able to do all these things when they might not even be listening to you because, like you said, they're thinking about how can I get my next fix? People think it's a disrespecting. It has nothing to do with you. It's about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I need this to feel good before I can start my day, before I
Yes.
can do these things. So I think removing the idea that it's personal, I think people will be able to approach situations with a little bit more compassion and find the hope that they might be looking for.
Love it.
So I want to thank you for coming onto the show today. We touched on a lot of topics, your personal story. We touched on the drug supply. We touched on the resources that people are actually looking for. So I want to thank you for helping us answer some of those important questions and sharing those stories.
You're so welcome.
Thanks for listening to this episode of For Love of Recovery. If you enjoyed this episode or know somebody who might, please leave a comment and share it. You can also join our Facebook group, Siblings for Love of Recovery, if you're looking to have deeper conversations around our siblings' use of drugs or alcohol. And remember, where there is hope, there is healing.